Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to an extra special edition of Across the Pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and I'm joined by Tony Robinson today, where we're joined by a guest who has one of the preeminent shirt collections in all of Lancashire, the big-time Accrington Stanley supporter. Welcome to the show, Rob Russell.
Thank you very much. What do you mean, one of the best collections? The best collection.
Well, I haven't seen them all, but I've heard you have an impressive collection, Rob. Why don't you start off by telling us about your shirt collection?
Well, where do I start? Basically, I hate collectors. I hate collecting things, and I hate hoarding. Well, we did, through the Supporters Club, we did an exhibition a few years ago, trying to display memorabilia and things like that. And when I opened my wardrobe up, I realised I had quite a number of shirts, and they'd be a good thing to display. And then after that, it became a bit of a mission to fill the gaps in and find every other shirt that I can. And I think that now I've successfully managed to get every shirt that we've ever sold, plus numerous other ones from beforehand, and match-worn shirts, extra special shirts. Like I've got John Coleman's only ever international appearance shirts. So yeah, it's all Stanley related.
What is your favorite shirt in your collection?
Well, it changes from day to day, Phil, because sometimes my waist is a little bit bigger and I can't fit in some of my favourite shirts, so I have to get a new favourite. But currently, my favourite one is my most recent acquisition, which is an away shirt from 1984 that I didn't ever think would see the light of day, but there we have it. We have one of those in the collection now.
Hey, Rob, it's Tony. How you doing, mate?
Hey, Tony.
Yeah, it's nice to get you on, and we know that you have a few stories for us. I mean, I'm intrigued with your shirt collection. That '84 one, what sort of design or color is it, and does it have a sponsor on?
Yes, it's Mafco Motor Products, and it's the away shirt. It's yellow and green vertical stripes, and it's an Umbro shirt. One of the reasons why it's extra special to me is because that was the first season that I went sporting Stanley. It might be quite just about the second season, but I was actually the mascot round about them days, 6 or 7 years old, and I remember we were away at Curzon Ashton, and I was stood next to Martin Sherman. I said, "You need to get me one of these shirts," because I was the mascot. And I used to dress in the Liverpool strip of the day because it was the most similar to the Stanley one. You couldn't buy them. So
right.
And I remember Martin Sherman was the substitute that night, and he took his shirt off and put his tracksuit top on. Took his shirt off and gave it me to wear to run out with the team. So it might have been down past my knees and hindering my running, but yeah. Interestingly enough, Martin Sherman was our record youngest player for many, many years until Bobby Grant turned up.
While we're talking about the shirt collection, we have a number of listener questions, and our first one of the day is from Gary Rivetta. Gary writes in, it says, "What's the longest you've had a new Stanley shirt before spilling beer or gravy on it?"
No, a damn sight longer than what he does. No, I've got to be honest. Gary doesn't spill things. He's got a mouth shaped like a bib, so he doesn't waste any gravy or beer.
There's no spillage at all there then.
No, none whatsoever.
No, we got to say that Darren Woodhead, of course, and when it comes to knowing stuff about Stanley, we could put you up against, I guess, Darren from knowing more about the club than he would, right?
We should have a trivia contest, I think.
It'd be interesting to have a quiz off.
Yeah, and I mean, there's more than just a couple people that have this knowledge in this trivia of Stanley, isn't there? I mean, there's quite a few around town that really keeps the stats together. A couple other fellas that you could mention, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, Gary, you've just spoke about Gary and Derek Dixon.
Yeah.
I think Derek's got by far the most comprehensive database. I tried doing it a few years back, and my computer crashed after I'd spent 6 months inputting all the data. So I started again, and then my computer crashed again, and I gave up after that. But Derek keeps track of every single player, where they go afterwards, and things like yellow cards, red cards, everything, and it's immense. But we do have some quite nerdy conversations now and again about stats, because there's a difference of opinion between what games some people count and what games others don't count. And over the years, the various sources that we would use to gather the information, they've used different ways of formatting everything, and sometimes it doesn't quite tally. And Derek will say that Paul Mullen played 452 games, and I'll say, well, no, I don't think he did. I think he only played 450.
Yeah.
So it's, we do fall out on it now and again, but it's all banter. But we try to create a couple of rules of our own as to exactly what constitutes an appearance or a goal, or So some of the Lancashire Cup games, it's funny because when we were a non-league team, the Lancashire Cup was an important trophy for us. It was a little bit of glamour, so to speak. But since we became a professional team, it's become a reserve fixture. So for 44 years, we're counting those as appearances. But for the last 11 years, we're not counting them. So it's a funny setup.
Rob and the other fellas he's mentioned are really part of the history of the club, because they're keeping track of all the information, and that just builds to the history, isn't it? It's just nice to have people that can contribute to the story and the history of the club.
Well, it's interesting, Tony, because my wife recently got a new colleague at work, a young lad about 19, 20 years old, and he told her that his granddad played for Stanley just after the war. That was the only information we had, other than his surname. So she came home and told me about it, and 30 seconds later, we had a full story and a picture of him.
Right.
Amazing.
So she went to work the next day. And she says, "Well, was your granddad called Fred?" Yeah. And it was just after the First World War, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Yeah. And she was able to tell him stuff about his granddad that he didn't know, and show him a picture. So it's good how these stories come about.
It's amazing to be able to, like Tony said, to be able to look back on the history and have that be preserved for the future. And that's why we like doing the Legends interviews, especially with Darren Woodhead here on the show, because like you said, it's real easy for the last 14 years or so to go back and look at what's happened since the team got into League Two. But it's so important that those formative years of the team, for the first 35 years that the club existed after 1970, that's really chronicled and not forgotten. And even the Peel Park days and as far back as we can, it's all such an important part of the club.
Absolutely. Every single tackle that's ever been made, well, certainly since 1970, but every tackle, every pass has contributed in a small way to where we are now. If somebody hadn't made an interception in 1973, we might have got relegated that year. You know what I mean? So everything's important.
Right. It's like when we had Brett Ormerod on and talked about, him being sold and the money that brought to the club. And it's like, at every point in the club's history when things looked really, really dire, something very important came there that got him just enough money to get over the line.
No, that's right. We've lived hand to mouth for every single year of our entire existence across every different Accrington Stanley or Accrington or Stanley Villa. We've always struggled. We're always going to struggle. But interestingly enough, over the last few years, we've struggled for different reasons, and one of those is success. We grow faster on the pitch than we can off the pitch, and sometimes it's been to our detriment. But every single pound that's been put in by every single director or fan or whatever, it's all been important. Not £1 that's been contributed to our club has gone towards somebody having a holiday in the Caribbean.
Do you see?
Except for myself.
And that's one of our listener questions, isn't it, Phil? I'm going to see if I can find that. Oh yeah, this is it's from our good friend Stephen Lowe. Well, he's a good friend for some of us anyway. Anyway, he said...
I thought you were a good friend, Tony. I've seen
Lowy was great when he came on the show. He had, I heard he had a free bar in his car, so he can't be that bad of a guy.
Yeah, I was somewhere else paying for my beer.
Well, he did say, and we do say he's a good friend because that's what we say on the show. He said, when we lost him in a bar in Barbados, where did we find him and drag him out of because he was skint?
I'm not sure I can answer.
All right. Oh, is that the craziest trip you went on then?
Yeah, no, I've been on worse.
The question that I was going to go with was David Thornley's, which is, why did you choose a non-league club and not EFL or Premier League back when you originally chose Stanley?
Well, the story goes back to I was 6 years old, and I used to collect I don't know whether they have them in America, but the Panini stickers, football stickers for every club in Division 1. And I also used to read the local newspaper. I was only just learning to read, so I weren't very good at it, but I'd look at the pictures and pick out what I could. And I was reading about this team called Accrington Stanley, and they were playing what I thought was Watford the following day. So I remember turning around to my dad and saying, Dad, team from Accrington, they're playing Watford away tomorrow, can we go? So my dad picked up the newspaper, had a read of the article, and said, "Oh, it's only an hour down the road. We'll go along." And when I got to the Barton Stadium at Winsford, I was very disappointed in Watford's ground, but I enjoyed the day, and from there on we went to a few more games, and I think my dad enjoyed the fact that he could go and meet up with his friends, and no matter what I did or where I went on the ground, he could see me. There weren't 20,000 people on, there were 200 people, and he could see me no matter where I were. And he back then the football they weren't professional in any way, shape, or form, but he would have known a few from round town, and he'd have played with a few. So my dad enjoyed it from that point of view. And basically, I mean, I grew up being proud of Accrington, and it didn't matter to me that I was the only Stanley fan in my school, and that when I went to secondary school, there were two of us to start with, and the other one was Rob Hayes, who was a big part of our club for years as well.
Yeah, and this leads me into a question that Darren Woodhead put forward. He said, "I'm interested to hear about your dad's part in the history of the club. Your dad, John Russell. Can you sort of tell Phil and our listeners a little bit about your dad and his involvement?"
Well, my dad's one of those who he knows a lot of people. He talks to a lot of people. He's particularly friendly when he's had a drink or two, like most of us are. Yeah. And he used to do a bit for the supporters club. I think he was the treasurer or secretary or something for a long time. But he also used to run the buses. So prior to Lowe's Lucky Bus, we had the Russ Bus, and basically it was just 49 people going on a Jolly Boys outing.
Oh, that had to be. Oh, I bet there's some stories you could tell about those bus trips.
Well, I were only a wee lad at the time, so
Oh,
not many of those. But yeah, and anything else, when in Rome, it stays in Rome.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of stories to tell all over. I say people of a certain vintage. They all knew my dad back then. He still goes on from time to time, but his health isn't what it was, and he doesn't like being out in the cold and things like that. So he doesn't get on half as much. But he's always asking, and people are always asking after him as well. How's your dad doing? And it's good to see. As a young lad, I wouldn't have appreciated like what he meant to other people, and it's only now where people are still asking after him 30 years later that you kind of realise that, hey, he wasn't a bad old sausage.
But that, and this is sort of symbolic of the club, because when you talk about your dad and people asking how he's doing, I mean that's I said that embodies the sort of the family nature of the club, doesn't it, Rob? Is that people, you're not just a season ticket number or a fan on the stands. You're part of the made up of the club, aren't you?
Well, exactly. I mean, an interesting story that I could tell would be John Holty, who was chairman of the club up until 1995, and a few years ago, we lost one of the old supporters, Ruth Chadwick, and a few of us went along to a funeral, and lo and behold, John Holty had found out the funeral were on. And he came across, and we went to the pub afterwards for a few drinks, as is the custom. And the thing that intrigued me about John was that it must have been 20 years later, but he still knew everybody at the table by name, and he was able to recall stories about individual people 20 years later. This is somebody who, he was charged with keeping the club running. He had more things on his mind than what people were called and what they had to drink. But the fact that he knew people and he actually knew you, that said a lot to me at the time. It was a measure of the man. But he wasn't unique in that. Everybody else, any name you could say from the 80s or the 90s or whatever, John DeMain, well-known name.
Yeah.
They were exactly the same sort of people. Keith Morton, God rest his soul, died a few months ago. He was exactly the same. Whenever he came to a game, he knew dozens of people still, and he'd make an effort to go over and say hello to everybody.
Well, I can relate to that, Rob, because I mean I only get over, for a few matches a year, and this year obviously I can't. But when I'm there, it seems like there's people who make an effort. If I'm in the hospitality lounge or whatever, to come over and say hello and welcome back, kind of thing, And as I say, that makes you feel like you're part of something special.
It does. It's important, and I think we benefit from. First of all, we are a small club with a small club mentality, much to John Coleman's chagrin. But I think it's also a northern custom that we are friendly, and we do kind of go out of our way to say hello to people. It's like the old joke, isn't it? That there's a Cockney walking along with a northerner says hello to somebody. How do you know him? Well, I don't. I'm just saying hello.
Yeah.
They don't quite understand it the further south you go, but it's who we are, and it makes us special. Like you said, every time you come over, once a year or whatever, and 24 people say hello to you by name. Yeah. Sometimes you might not remember their name, and you have to be polite to them for 5 minutes. But
well, I'll tell you, for 2 or 3 years, John that does the compare, the MC work in the lounge before hospitality. for 3 or 4 years, I kept calling him Tony, and then somebody finally said to me, "Why do you call him Tony?" I said, "Well, that's his name." He said, "No, his name's John." But he was so polite, he didn't correct me. But anyway, but that's just sort of embodies what the club is, you know. There's that leads me on to a question that come in from Jace Graham, and he's got a couple really that can sort of tie in together. And I'll throw them all at you at once. Is your favorite promotion, your favorite away game, and your favorite player?
Oh, well, let's go in reverse order because I'll struggle to remember them. Favorite player? There's too many to choose from because they're the same with all of them. Jimmy Ryan, as a footballer himself, skillful, tenacious, loved that. Chris Grimshaw, absolutely everything about Chris Grimshaw there was nothing to not like from a supporter point of view. John McNally for bossing Barbados with his inadequate drinking skills, but I think overall it has to be Paul Mullen. And then the reason why is because every time we got promoted and we'd all sit down in the pub and analyse the team and where we needed to strengthen, we kind of said it every time that Paul Mullen won't be fast enough for the next league. And every year he got better. He got better and better. He was a consummate professional. He never seemed to be injured. He was never suspended. And he was basically the fulcrum of everything we did for over a decade. So Paul Mullen wins that one.
Right, good choice.
Well, the other one, favourite away game.
Yeah.
Again, it changes for many reasons. Honourable mention to Radcliffe Bury that everyone else goes on about.
Right.
But for slightly different reasons. Last season's trip to Blackpool, played them on, I think it was Boxing Day, New Year's Day, over Christmas anyway.
Right.
With a large away following for us. I think they were just short of 1,000. And we won. We had a last-minute winner from Super Sean. There's a video knocking about somewhere on YouTube. It's filmed from the opposite side of the ground, and all you can see is 1,000 Stanley fans going absolutely mental, limbs everywhere. The noise was unreal. To say that it came across loud and proud from 100 yards away, and the football ground itself was emptying. There was no Blackpool fans around. The Stanley players were all partying on the field like they won the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about it on the players celebrating is that we get a bit of stick off other clubs that sometimes we celebrate like we've won something when we've won 3 points. But I don't think they realise quite what every 3 points means to a club like us, because we haven't had anything come easy to us. You know, we can't go out and spend £1 million on a striker like Peterborough do every season. We can't pay wages that will attract a player over anything else. We haven't got the training grounds, sorry. Everything we have, we've fought and we've battled for, and we battle for it on a weekly basis. So when we get one over on somebody, we're having our moment. We don't know how many we're going to get, so we'll take it every single time.
Do you think that's because we have fans from Accrington, from Stanley, appreciate more what they've got than fans from bigger teams or other teams like Portsmouth, Sunderland?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's I don't know whether we're doing the rapid fire or whatever, but if Sunderland Till I Die is on there, I haven't watched it because I weren't interested. Because you keep asking everybody else whether they watch it or not, I thought I'd better watch it recently. So I watched it, and I was absolutely appalled at Sunderland fans. I really was appalled at them because they think that they deserve things. They think that they're bigger than everyone else, and they deserve to win promotion. They deserve a better team than what they've got. No, they don't. The type of fans that will boo their players after 30 minutes because they're losing 2-0, they don't deserve anything. You know, I mean, one of the reasons why footballers like coming back to Accrington is because we don't get on the back. We're not going to barrack them for a misplaced pass. We understand that the team we have, they're here because they want to earn a living. They want to play football. And we'll help them do that. We're supporters. We're not customers. We're supporters. And we do everything we can to help the team, help the club, and help the players.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Phil, Rob. That's exactly right.
Well, Rob, you mentioned our rapid fire here a few minutes ago, and Tony, I think we're getting to about the time where you should break out your famous questions.
Well, I'm going to cross off the list now. Anyway, we've already covered that one, didn't we? But I have to I have to agree with Rob on the Sunderland one, because when I was watching it, and you see things like where they have 2 or 3 chefs and they have all this and all that, and the fans are actually just, the word entitlement comes to mind. It really does. They feel they're entitled to to be in Championship or the Premier League. They don't they feel like they shouldn't be in League One, and they shouldn't be playing teams like Stanley, and that's something that doesn't sit well with me. All right, we'll go with the standard ones, and we'll start off with mushy or garden peas.
Mushy peas.
That boy. Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Neither.
Okay. Well, want to try Blur or Oasis?
I'll have Blur. No, I won't have Blur. I want the other ones.
Oasis.
Right.
Red sauce or brown sauce on your bacon sandwich?
Either. I have a rule with all food. If there's red on the plate, it's brown sauce. If there's no red on the plate, it's red sauce.
A good rule to live by.
Works for everything.
Yeah, with your full English, with or without black pudding?
Absolutely, definitely with.
Oh, good man. Soap opera, Coronation Street or Emmerdale?
It's got to be Corrie, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Percy and Phyllis. Can't get better than a bit of Percy and Phyllis.
And the next one, I think I know the answer to this one, but I don't know if Phil will or not. In happy hour after the Stanley win, Aki Ale or Lager?
Lager, all of it.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. There's a reason why you've got 10 fingers.
I'm Guinness myself.
There's no trays behind bars, so you've just got to dip your fingers in and carry as many as you can.
Okay, the best. You talked to the best Stanley player. Who's the best footballer you've seen live, not wearing a Stanley shirt?
Jan Malby.
Very good.
Watched him play for Liverpool in a charity game at Blackburn Rovers. I think it might have been Simon Garner's testimonial or Noel Brotherston's testimonial. Jan Malby, he didn't move out of the centre circle the entire game. There were players bouncing off him while he was just spinning around, and it was like watching a dad play with his twin 3-year-olds or something like that. Fantastic player.
Okay, favorite getaway for you and your wife?
Well, you've spoilt it now, haven't you?
No, I mean holidays.
Can we just leave it at favourite getaway?
Right. Yes, you can if you want. It's you're the guest.
I'm not an holiday person, so I don't really have a favourite getaway. Saturdays.
How about favourite takeaway?
Chinese.
You can't go wrong with that. If you were to have dinner with 2 people of your choice, past or present, who would they be?
Probably John and Jimmy, to be honest.
Nice answer.
Yeah, I mean they're both absolute comedians with something in common. The football club, and I think we could just have a right good chat over 20 years worth of success.
Well, do you think you'd get a word in with both Jimmy and Johnny at the table?
I'll get an odd one in here and there. You want a drink and that kind of thing.
Okay, there was one here that I'm trying to. It was part of my rapid fire, and I'm trying to find it because it was a quiz question or a fan question. Was from Max Laird from up Scotland? What's your favorite Stanley game away in terms of atmosphere?
It's a similar question to the one from Jace earlier. I've really got to say Bloomfield Road last year.
Yeah.
It was more afterwards. I say it was enjoyable to be part of, but all games are. And I've been, in fact, actually, I'm going to change it. I'm going to go for Barnet away in the FA Cup and it was on a Tuesday night. I think the official away attendance were about 16, and there were 11 on our minibus. And we stood right next to their ultras, just a little fence between us, and we had a right good sing-song, all 11 of us. But the thing is when you're in a group of 11, it still sounds like you're in a group of 11,000, because all you can hear is your own noise. You can't hear 3 people along, especially if there's nobody there. But we've had some belting atmospheres over here for our numbers anyway. It used to be good to go on away forums, and listen to the home fans talking about how good the away fans were and things like that. We've always tried to be positive. We've got an extensive songbook. We're not like Portsmouth with their one song. Way up Pompey. That's all they sing, and they think the race for it. When you've got 2,000 fans travelling away, you should be able to make a better effort than that.
And I think that that's one of the things that you always hear about when away fans come to Stanley is the experience they have at the Wham Stadium. I think people, some come from big clubs and they think, sort of, I don't say look down their noses, but when they come and they enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the day and the experience, they go away and they say that's a proper day out and a proper football ground, and they always say they want to come back. So I think that's a good sign when you get that from the away supporters.
Absolutely. I mean, this has only happened in the last 3 years or so. It's Andy Holt's doing, and he realises that we can't offer a fantastic stadium and fantastic facilities for these fans to come to. But what we can do is treat them like fans rather than treat them like criminals. We've been to some places and Stanley fans are better behaved than nearly every other club. But yet you get off the coach and instantly you're shepherded into a ground and you're told to sit down. You're told to, they treat you like criminals. And there's one place, Mansfield. I've no intention of ever going back to Mansfield again, because they just treat you badly from the moment you land. They don't deserve having 50 quid of my money. So, right. But Andy Holt, he knows that it's the best way to keep people coming back is to treat them right, treat them like people. So the stewarding is low key, the policing is low key. We encourage the mingling. There's no segregation before the game, and touch wood, we've never had any bother with it. While we treat them right, they appear to be treating us right.
That's me for the rapid fire.
Well, all right. I just have one question for rapid fire that I throw in that is my question at the end. Is the Phoenix, Arizona question: yes or no to hot jalapeno peppers on your pizza?
Oh, definitely.
All right. Good man. Good man.
I don't turn much down in the way of food. I think cabbage is about the only thing I don't. Brussels sprouts, I don't like them neither.
Yeah, I hear you there.
I just want to ask Rob his thoughts on. I mean, obviously, it's a good start to the season, but what's your overall thoughts on what the Jimmy and John and Jimmy have put together in the way of a club for this season, Rob?
I think we've got some genuinely exciting players this time. I'm not a big fan of loan players, and I don't think John and Jimmy are, to be fair. But needs do as needs must.
Yeah.
My only worry was that between all the players, the loan players or the ones we've actually signed, there's not much in the way of games played over the last few years. But in the famous words of Alan Hansen, that you don't win nothing with kids. I think we've got as good a shout as anybody else. There's one or two things like Sean McConville being injured and Sam Finley being banned. Some of these players, they're going to get an extended attempt at holding down a place rather than 1 or 2 games and then Sean comes back and gets his place back straight away. And if they can hit the ground running and replicate why they're employed by Newcastle United and Chelsea, then I think we're in for a really good season. I'd love nothing better than to look at our subs bench one day and see Sean McConville and Sam Finley not being able to get into the team.
Well, and it could be a situation when they come back. If these lads are performing like they have been, it's not automatic that that Sean or Finley get back in the squad, is it?
No. If they're sat on the subs bench, then we're having a run for playoffs.
Well, absolutely, because I think that last season when Sean got injured, there was definitely a noticeable drop off. I mean, that's not to take away from Joe Pritchard, who played well in his absence, but you could just see that veteran leadership was missing. I think that a big thing that you have this year is you've seen Ross Sykes. He was captain in that first game against Burton when Seamus was on the bench. Even though he's a young guy, he's in his third full year as a starter now. He's also been learning from Mark Hughes, the best of the business. So I think with those two center backs in Hughes and Sykes, those guys and along with Seamus, you've got a nice experienced spine.
Yeah. I think one of the things that John Coleman, John and Jimmy both do is they create a really, really good team spirit where the players enjoy coming to work, and that makes a difference. Now, if you've got all these young lads knocking about that perhaps if they went to a bigger club, they'd be a little bit overawed or intimidated, or they'd be expected to behave a little better. Whereas I think, not misbehaviour, but I think John and Jimmy encourage mischievousness and the banter and all that kind of thing. If you get a room full of young lads enjoying going to work and having banter and just bouncing off each other, throwing your experience, like you said, I think we could be underestimated this season.
I think that, and what John and Jimmy do in the changing rooms, and it's like you said, the banter. I think they're just as bad as or guilty as the players. In fact, they probably started to get some of the players going, don't they?
Yeah. What he does is I'll race you drinking this cup of hot water for 50 quid.
What do you think? I mean, and I was a bit surprised, not surprised, but I was sort of, when John Coleman said that Cameron Burgess was, his first signing, and he was the one he was targeting, to come to the club. And I thought, well, he's signing a centre back, and is he a bit going overblown here? But he seems to be bang on, because this player seems to be somebody that's going to be back on that back line for a few years to come yet.
Well, here's the thing. I think this it's the only reason I can think why I think Cameron Burgess is better than us. And I think this could be something to do with the salary cap. If he's only going to get the same money playing for us as what he would do at Northampton, or he was at Salford on loan, or wherever else might have been looking at him, if he's only going to get the same money, then he might as well go somewhere where he's going to enjoy himself and he's going to actually play every week. So whether he's playing for a move next season or whenever his salary cap's lifted, I don't know. But it's good for us because he looks solid. He has played games recently for Northampton and Salford and what have you, and I think he'll do really well for us, and he'll go on to become a favourite.
He's been impressive. I mean, I'm just blown away with what I've seen so far. Now, I think that with Peterborough, you had a team that probably wasn't firing on all cylinders yet. That being said, if they come out and they play the way that they did on Saturday every week, they're going to surprise some people. Like you said they're going to sneak up on some people. But Rob, we've really enjoyed having you on the show here today. But I did have one thing that I wanted to kind of wrap up with, since you are a trivia expert. I have put together a trivia question, and I would say it's a trivia question of moderate difficulty. I'm not gonna kill you with anything too crazy here, This trivia question will be for an across the pitch magnet, and you can get one of those from Darren Woodhead, whether you get the question right or not, just for being a good sport here. But the trivia question that I have for you is, who was Accrington's leading scorer in the 2011-2012 season?
Terry Gornell.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Was it Terry Gornell?
No. I'll give you one more guess, and I'll tell you that it's someone that we had on the show back in. He was one of the first guests that we ever had on the show, but he wasn't playing for Accrington at the time. He's still an active player.
Bobby Grant?
Nope.
You got me on that one, Phil.
Podge Amon, 7 goals.
All right.
We don't recognise that season.
Well, just for me, one last question.
He went to Morecambe. Sorry, Tony.
No, he did.
He's been erased from my memory.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, he's at Newport now, so that's not as bad.
Where would you see Stanley finishing this season, Rob? What would you be happy with?
Well, every season I'm happy with 20th. I really am. I think we can threaten the top half, and come Easter, have an interest in the playoffs. Whether we get there or not, it might just be a step too far. But I'd like to attack Easter with the hopes of getting into it. But like I say, just finishing 20th and being in this league, it sounds negative, but for me, it's just the fact that we're in this league.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 seasons, we broke our transfer record 2 or 3 times, and not just by 50 pence, neither by a long, long way. We've had sellouts on numerous occasions, and these things are massive, not just to an Accrington fan, but to Accrington as a town. That it's actually putting us on the map, and we need to keep that going. We're a good few years now into trying to attract the younger generation to adopt us as the first team, the main team, and we have to keep that momentum going. So 20th for me all day long.
That's an excellent point, because as long as Accrington is in League One, they're at a status where they're going to attract the younger kid to be able to say, okay, Accrington Stanley is my first team. They, are at least within shouting distance of the top level. I don't know if shouting distance is a term over in England, but League One, you're in shouting. It is when
you're a Stanley fan. They're all within shouting distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're realistically you're 2 years away from the top tier at League One at any given time, and like you said, you get a right combination of loan players together, like possibly this year, get into the playoffs. Who knows what happens? Next thing you know, you get up to the championship. Maybe that attracts some investors. I mean, the sky is the limit when you start reaching these top tiers. Basically, anytime you get into the football league, you're within that shouting distance. And I think, with since 2006, we're going on to, it's going to be 15 years consecutive of Stanley in the football league, and that itself is a huge accomplishment, because I mean, at that point, you really are an established league team.
Definitely. This is the thing with John Coleman's teams, is that it's the continuity that's the secret to it.
Yes.
For all of us. And he gets his spine together of people who will run through the proverbial brick walls for him. They know exactly what's asked of them. And then every now and again, he'll find that nugget that this season it could be Iwakwe. He'll find that nugget that makes a difference to the spine of the team and turns them from a team that are just difficult to beat into a team that you're not going to get no points off us at all. And that's when we start to threaten. there isn't a person amongst us who would expect to be able to have a tilt at the League One title other than John Coleman. But you just wouldn't put it past him.
No, and the one thing that I noticed, like from Stanley fans, is that obviously off to a good start with a win over Peterborough, but even if we'd have lost to Peterborough, put up a good show, the sky wouldn't be falling like it is when you listen to Pompey fans and Sunderland fans, and they all want to get rid of the manager. They don't like the football and stuff like that. It's
glorious.
Yeah,
it's glorious. There's nothing better than reading another team's forum when they say we should be beating teams like Stanley.
Yeah,
it's amazing, and I take great delight in reading it 20 times a season.
Well, Rob, it's been a pleasure. It's gone quick, and we've hopefully covered a lot of the fan questions. Some of the ones we've done, they're sort of incorporated, and some of the ones we probably just left alone because there were stories that probably shouldn't be told on air. So
yeah, we're a PG-13 show here.
Well, anyway, that's why I didn't answer Louis' question.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, Rob, to see you next in August, September 2021, when everything's back to normal and I can have a pint with you in the lounge.
No worries. There's one way to not bar with your name on, Tony.
Right. Cheers, mate.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Rob. We've been wanting to have you on for a while, and we're glad that we finally did that. And
yeah,
I'm sure you know how we like to finish up the show.
Well, so do I need to sing this bit?
No, you can if you want.
No, we just need to shout it. So if everybody's ready, everybody ready? Here we go.
On Stanley on.